And the clock on the wall says it's time to start another episode of Student of the Gun Radio. This is actually part 2 of our weekly episode. And thank you for joining us yet again. Some of you, I don't know, you think people out there are disciplined, Jared? You think they discipline themselves and they listen to like one a day? Or do you think they're addicts and they just listen to one and then the next one? And
I think once they start, they just can't stop.
that probably is true. They get started and they're like, oh, I just can't stop. I need more. I need more. Yes, you do. You do need more. Welcome back. Thank you for some of you. It was just been, I don't know, the amount of time that it took you to reload from part 1 to part 2. And some of you may be skipping around because you saw the title of this one, and it's Smith & Wesson throws their hat into the Army pistol ring. And you're like, well, what's that all about? We talked about this, about the fact that the U.S. Army put out a bid or a spec for new pistols. And like good American gun owners that we are, every time the Army talks about new pistols, everyone has collective kittens, and they start hypothesizing, and you get the guys that come out of the war, they're going to go back to the 1911. You know, those of you who, well, Jared knows, and some of you that are in the know, when I took my first class, my first professional firearms training class from John Farnham, it was a 4-day class, 40-plus hours, and I was the ripe old age of 19. And back in 1986, the legal purchase age for a handgun was 21, right? You could own one if someone gave it to you, but you couldn't go into a shop and purchase it, just kind of like today. So here I am, 19 years old, and I'm going to go take a firearms class. So what do? Well, you rent a gun, and the school had rentals. Now, these rentals were World War II surplus 1911s. And I spent 4 days shooting literally thousands of rounds through a GI 1911. And you're like, oh, man, that must have been awesome. It was painful. This gun that I was shooting, this was not a Kimber Springfield tricked out, Wilson Combat with beaver tails and beveled magwells and flared ejection ports. No. This is a box stock 1911. And did it work? Yeah, it worked. It functioned just fine. And the fact is most people that were there was probably 13, 14 guys in the class maybe. And memory serves, all but maybe 3 or 4 guys in that class had some form of 1911 pistol. And I remember there was one guy who had this fancy new Smith & Wesson semi-automatic pistol. And another guy actually came from South America or Central America, somewhere south of our America. And it was a bodyguard class, and he used a double-action revolver. We kind of thought it was funny, but the reason he did was because that's all he was allowed to carry in his native country was a double-action revolver. So, folks, I'm intimately familiar with the workings of the 1911, and I'm going to tell you this. We're not going back to the 1911, and there's really no need to. I know it. You guys like them, and you like to buy them and look at them and hold them and flip them upside down and take them to the range and so forth, but it's 2014. 1911 was over 100 years ago. That would be like saying the Army needs to go back to the 1911 Jeep, or I don't even think they had Jeeps then, the 1911, 3/4-ton truck. Or what were we flying then? Were we even flying then? We weren't flying then. All right, so the new pistol. Now, some people are excited. We're excited. Everyone's excited that the Army has put out a bid for a new pistol. Now, curb your enthusiasm just a bit, because this is not the first time since the M9 was introduced, the M9 Beretta that everyone loves to hate. This isn't the first time that the Army has talked about getting a new pistol. It's happened before. They put out bids and speculations, and everyone gets all excited. They're like, oh, it's like, shh, calm down. I've said for years that they need to just get their heads out of their collective rectums and just buy a striker-fired pistol of some sort. let's face it, I'm sure when you compare dollars to dollars, apples to apples, that buying a Glock 17 versus a Beretta M9, that the Glock 17 is going to be a lot less expensive. It's probably going to be less expensive to maintain as well. Maintain? You mean you got to fix these things? Yeah, you have to fix them, switch out parts, and all that good stuff. Now, is Glock going to get the contract? We don't know. But here's what we do know. I got the press release in my inbox about a few days ago. It was actually right before Thanksgiving from Smith & Wesson about how they had officially announced that they were going to throw their hat in the ring. But they weren't throwing their hat in the ring all by themselves. And the source for this story that we're going to use is gunsandammo.com. Dateline November 25th, 2014. Smith & Wesson Holding Corporation and General Dynamics Ordnance and Tactical Systems, there's a big name, announced their partnership to pursue the U.S. Army's Modular Handgun System, or MHS, solicitation.
That's a TLA.
That's a TLA, that's right. The partnership aims to replace the Beretta M9 with a Smith & Wesson M&P polymer pistol platform. Wow, that's a lot of P's. As the standard sidearm for the U.S. Army. In production since 2005, the M&P pistol, yada, yada, yada. Well, I think this is actually an excellent idea. And the M&P is a strong gun. The M&P 9 in full size is a strong gun. And we've been working with not only the M&P 9, but the M&P 357, which is currently yellow and has a, whose barrel is in that? KKM Precision Barrel. And it's a tool, not a trophy. Right, Jared?
It is a tool,
it's
not
a tool,
trophy.
Not a trophy. And most recently, we talked about this a little bit, but not a whole lot. Smith & Wesson came out with a couple of different M&P pistols that they were basically what they call their optics ready guns, or their CORE, a competition optics ready equipment, or what is CORE? They're Smith & Wesson Core pistols. And what the core stands for basically is that what they did on the slide is they did a little cutout so that you could put a mini red dot sight, such as those from Leupold or Aimpoint or Trijicon or EOTech or what have you. And red dots on pistols, you're like, red dots on pistols? That's just for those game guys, those game playing dudes, and that's not for real fighting. Actually, it's going to be for real actually, it is right now for real fighting. We have it on good authority that the folks down at Fort Bragg have been rigorously testing out pistols with red dot optics on them for at least 3 to 4 years now. So, and you say, well, what if it breaks or what if the battery dies? That's why they have raised iron sights. When you get the core, it has raised rear and raised front sights, so you can actually, let's just say God hates you and your optic broke. Well,
God loves everybody.
No, God loves everybody. But God hates some of you and your optics are going to break and your battery's going to die. But that was my thing when I was training the kids. They're like, oh, but what if? I'm like, well, I've got a this and I've got a that. I've got a GPS. Well, sometimes God hates you and your batteries are going to die. What are you going to do now, Sparky? So anyway, we thought that was pretty interesting, and there's no reason. Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but there's no reason why, in a logical world, why Smith & Wesson couldn't do this contract. And I believe with the partnering with General Dynamics is kind of, we know that General Dynamic Ordnance is deep into the U.S. military complex, which Smith & Wesson really is not. And that is the key. You have companies like Colt who've been involved with the U.S. government and the Department of Defense for a long, long time, and Beretta and so forth. But what you really don't have, Smith & Wesson has not been a military sidearm for a long time. So working with, and that's, it's whose back do you have to scratch, who do you have to buy drinks for, who do you have to invite to the parties and something. You're like, well, that's bullcrap. They should just go with what's the best. You're right. They should. And all that other nonsense, all that other Washington, D.C., inside the Beltway, Department of Defense, Pentagon stuff, you shouldn't have to, take people to dinner and, buy them presents or whatever. But the reality of the matter is you do. So we wish the best of luck to the guys at Smith & Wesson. We think it would actually I think the American people would be pleased, at least those that are paying attention, if the Army were to buy a made-in-the-USA pistol, which makes sense. And, Jared, other than Ruger, who else is large enough, has a manufacturing capability to make 100,000 pistols for the Army? But they're not made here. They're made overseas.
Oh, you're talking about USA.
Yeah, U.S. companies.
Smith & Wesson.
Smith & Wesson and Ruger, that's pretty much it. And as much as we like the SR9, the SR9 is, I don't believe it's ready for military service. I just don't think it is. Well, part of the problem I have with the SR9, the gun functions just fine. It goes bang, bang, bang. But they put, in order to be lawyer-friendly and slave state-friendly, they put all this superfluous horse crap onto the guns. And, yeah, I understand stocks and you know, stockholders and blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of junk on a Ruger SR9 that doesn't need to be there. But they did it so they could sell them in California and Massachusetts and Maryland and all these stupid slave states. And, you know, just as a quick aside, Jared, you think if the American firearms industry looked down between their legs and found their testicles and said to all these slave states, you know what? You don't like our products? Then we're not going to sell them. No. We want you to sell them to our police agencies and state troopers. And no. No, if the slaves in your state are not allowed to own it, then the rest of you don't get them either. But I know that's a pipe dream. We're looking for the firearms industry to do the right thing collectively, and unfortunately, that's really not a practical. It's not something that's practical. Now,
you know what I think is pretty cool?
What's pretty cool?
The fact that you said your first professional training course you took was from John Farnham, right?
Yes.
Well, Dad stayed in contact with Farnham, and I guess they're pretty good friends, huh?
Yeah, well, for going on 30 years now. Not quite 30 years, but getting pretty close.
Yeah, getting pretty close. You're running up on 30 years now, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, Dad got a copy of the Patriot Fireteam ebook into John Farnham's hands, and John read it. And he gave us a jacket quote. He was nice enough to take the time to give us a jacket quote for the ebook, and I'm going to read it for you real quick. Let me find it real quick.
You know, I wasn't even thinking about that.
All right. It says, this is from John Farnham, and it says, I've known Paul for many years, and I've known him to always get to the point quickly. In this book, Paul reveals much valuable information that we all need to know. He is concise, organized, dignified, and honest. I recommend you read it. Sorry, the first sentence there kind of threw me off.
It threw you off?
He must know a different Paul
what,
than I do.
gets to the point? Yeah.
Yeah, what?
Don't tell Mrs. Markle that. You know what? You need to forward that to Mrs. Markle.
Yeah.
And say, see, John Farnham knows.
Okay. Well, see, if you got to the point quickly all the time, then you wouldn't be able to have a radio show.
Yeah, we wouldn't. The Student of the Gun radio would be 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
And what fun would that be?
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
People on the treadmill will only get a 10-minute workout.
So what I've learned from going to the shows with Dad is that he gets to the point quickly when he's in the presence of somebody that he respects, that he thinks is that he could learn from.
So you don't think I don't respect the audience? Is that what you're saying? Now, I'm providing education, information, and enlightenment right now.
Right, but what I'm saying is when you can learn from somebody else, you shut up. But when other people can learn from you, when you're in an audience that can learn from you, you talk.
Is that how that works?
Yep, that's what I've learned.
Okay.
That's all, folks.
Well, Jared, since you teased him with the jacket quote from Farnham, and we talked about that previously, why don't you tell them where we are right now with the Patriot Fireteam book?
Well, right now we're in Biloxi, Mississippi, and the Patriot... Okay, no, that's not what you meant?
No.
Oh, well, I'm almost done with adding the extras for the Patriot Fireteam book.
The e-book.
The e-book. And, speaking of that, speaking of e-book and publishing book and blah, 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 we have found a route to bring you guys the
paperback.
The printed
Dead Tree version,
right?
As they like to call it out there.
Yeah. See, you guys, you just hate trees because you want a printed version.
Why do you hate trees?
Yeah, why do you hate trees? But anyway, I'm in the final putting all the extras in to the ebook right now for you guys, because obviously in ebook you can actually click and go to other stuff. You can't do that in a printed book. So as soon as I'm done with that, it'll definitely be out by the 16th. We might be able to release it a couple days early.
So is it available to people now? Can they go
now
and order it?
Yeah, you can go to patriotfireteam.com, and there's a little in the menu bar there. Then you can you click on the ebook, and it'll take you directly to the page where you can pre-order it. And if you pre-order it, we won't charge you until we deliver it to you. That's December 16th at the latest. But as soon as that's in your hot little hands, that's when we'll charge you.
And folks, I'm going to go ahead and pimp the PatriotFireTeam.com right now. If you guys haven't gone to the webpage PatriotFireTeam.com, you need to do that, because Jared took right before Thanksgiving. He was spending some serious hours in his office there, in the little, what do you call your office, Jared? The cave of knowledge and enlightenment, or whatever. But the fact is, he spent a lot of time updating the Patriot Fire Team website, and it's the previous one was good. I liked it, but the current version is way better. But the only thing, Jared, go ahead and go to it right now.
I'm on it right now.
Okay. The only thing the only problem I can see is some of the pictures.
Yeah, we're gonna put a video there.
Oh,
I'm not done with the website yet. I'm in the middle of redesigning it.
Okay.
So we're gonna bring another forum back, a more user friendly forum. The other one's gone right now because.
Oh, did it go away?
Yeah, it went away.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, well, I had a couple people email me about it, and so I want to let everybody know that I am redesigning the Patriot Fire Team website. But you can go there right now, and everything's there. You can you can look at the T-shirt, the ebook. You can join us. There's a members area. You can even contact us if you want to.
What? You can contact us. Yeah, so check that out. If you guys haven't been to the Patriot Fire Team website lately, it's super easy, and it doesn't cost you anything. Go to patriotfireteam.com. All right, let's talk about some of people that support us. Let's talk about Velocity Triggers. You want to go to velocitytriggers.com. If you have a black rifle, if you have an AR-15 rifle, and you want to turn it into a precision instrument, you want to do hunting, you want to do competitions, you just want to lighten up your trigger because maybe you've got one that has a heavy, crunchy trigger. And you guys know a heavy, crunchy trigger. Some of you have them. Go to velocitytriggers.com. And you might be thinking, but I'm not a gunsmith, and I really don't want to pay a gunsmith to install a new trigger in my gun. Stop yourself. At velocitytriggers.com, they have a how-to video. It's on the main page. Just click it, and you won't believe how easy it is for you to install a match-grade precision trigger in your black rifle at your tabletop, on your workbench. You can do it in a few minutes, and the Velocity triggers are one component. It's not a bunch of springs and pieces that you have to, adjust. There's no adjustment, or, the people are like, well, I bought a match trigger before, and it took me hours to get it installed and tuned and all that jazz. No, that's not here. So go to velocitytriggers.com, check them out. If you've got a black rifle and you've been thinking about, hey, it's coming up on Christmas, you want to treat yourself, go ahead and do that. And also show them some love. They've got basically a brand new website. They've got a brand new Facebook page, all that stuff. If you're a Facebooker, go over there and give them a like. Let them know that you heard about them on Student of the Gun. Now, speaking of hearing about people on Student of the Gun, we talk about Brownells every week, and you go to brownells.com. If you own a gun, Brownells has something for you. And if you want to own a gun, Colt.com has something for you. The LE901 rifle, which is probably the most interesting gun that they've come up with in the last 10 years. Now, we talked about that. We talked about SWAT Fuel. Did we talk about SWAT Fuel yet? No. SWAT Fuel promo code SOTG2014. If you go to SWATfuel.com and you make an order, make sure that you're using the promo code because you're going to get 20% off your total purchase, which is very righteous. Now, here, after we talk about, we're going to do one more segment, and then we've got audio. You guys know, if you're dedicated fans, that Dr. Dan Olesnicki, the founder, CEO, head cheese at SWAT Fuel, came and spent a few days with us down here on the Gulf Coast, and we featured him last week. Well, we recorded another segment with Dr. Dan, and we didn't want to dump them all into one show. We wanted to spread it out a little bit for you guys. So what we're going to do here in a little bit, we're going to drop in the discussion that we had with Dan about SWAT fuel and nutrition and so forth. So it's kind of like a bonus treat that we've got for you. Now, before we do all that, we want to talk about our Good Guy of the Week. Now, this is the Excess Sites Good Guy of the Week, brought to you by Excess Sites. The what? What are they, Jared?
The fastest sites in any light.
The fastest sites in any light. Jared's going to go ahead and tell us our Good Guy of the Week question and where it came from, and he's going to give you your marching orders.
This week's good guy is Simperlisto, and he or she posted their question on the forums. It's forums.studentofthegun.com. You can go there, go to the good guy. I think it's titled Good Guy of the Week forum, win free stuff.
Yeah, win free stuff, Good Guy of the Week. It's the top one. It's the most popular thread that's on the forum.
Yeah, go there, post your question. If we pick you, then we'll get access to send you a good guy pack. And Simperlisto, I need you to email me. That's Jared, Jarrad, at studentofthegun.com. Email me your address, shirt size, phone number, and include your email address in the email, please.
That's so it makes it easy to forward.
Yeah, I can just forward it. Anyway. He says, I know most situations don't rise to the level of deadly force, but that leaves us with nothing in too many cases. For instance, somebody snatches a tablet and runs. Not a deadly force stitch. Oh,
Sitch.
No. You can't say that. You can't type that in the forum.
Yeah.
Not a deadly force situation. But something should be done. Here's the question. Are rubber bullets a viable tool for civilians?
No. No, and hang on a second. No. Why is that? Well, I'm going to tell you why that is. Because you're thinking that you're being the good guy, the reasonable person, the rational person. You're like, well, it doesn't justify deadly force, so I'm going to use. And I know that in Israel they have rubber bullets, and corrections officers and cops have shotguns with rubber buckshot and stuff like that. You're not doing crowd control. You're not doing prisoner control. You're not doing riot control. You are a citizen, okay? And if you pull a gun out of a holster, display it, and point it at another human being, and you say, well, it just has rubber bullets in it. It doesn't matter. If you point what appears to be a firearm to a normal person, if anyone looking at that situation would think, hey, he has a gun in his hand and he's pointing it at someone, he's threatening them with that. Now, you may be justified. Someone is trying to hurt you, hurt someone else. When we talk about that, in armed living and so forth, all the, the ability, opportunity, and intent. If you display a firearm or hold a firearm in your hand or discharge a firearm at another human being, it's deadly force, and it's either justified or it's not justified. A gun, a live, genuine firearm, is never not deadly force. Well, then how come cops get away with... Police officers are charged with maintaining the peace. You are not charged with maintaining the peace. Corrections officers are charged with housing and securing prisoners. You are not. The Israeli army is, you're not part of the, if you're part of the Israeli army and you want to shoot rubber bullets into crowds of protesters, rock on, go do it. But you as the dude on the street, no. You say, well, all right, forget about handguns. How about shotguns for home defense? I heard that it's a good idea to have rubber buckshot. You heard that from who? From the company that sells rubber buckshot? Yeah, exactly. A shotgun is never not, in your hands, it's never not a lethal force instrument. You say, well, but I don't, lethal force isn't always justified. No, lethal force isn't always justified. And there are different tools that you can use to address non-lethal force. But a shotgun or a pistol or a rifle is not one of them. So, and you're like, well, what about the park rangers that shoot bears with rubber? Stop, dude. Are you a park ranger? Are you shooting bears? And here's the thing with shooting bears with rubber buckshot. I can tell you this, is that it annoys the bears and they go away. but they don't stay gone. They come back. But I don't want to get into that. Here's the deal. If you point a shotgun at a human and you discharge it, now, are rubber buckshot and rubber slugs and all that, are they non-lethal or are they less than lethal? Isn't it the same thing? No, it's not. Have there been people that have been maimed with rubber buckshot? Yeah, there are. Now, what is the definition of deadly force there, smart students of the gun? Well, death or serious bodily harm, right? Well, we know what death is. It's no longer being alive. But that's not the only part of death or serious bodily harm. Serious bodily harm is harm that is what, Jared? Permanent what?
Permanent dismemberment or
disfigurement, scarring,
or
and so forth. So if I take a baseball bat and I smash you in the knees with it, I could look at you and say, you're probably not going to die. You're not going to die from me smashing you in the knees with a baseball bat, so you can't shoot me. Yeah, actually, I can, because the fact is, if I smash your knees with a baseball bat, do you think you might suffer permanent disfigurement? Yes. Prolonged rehabilitation, prolonged hospitalization, all those things. If you shoot someone with rubber buckshot and you're excited, they're moving, you're moving, and you shoot them in the neck or the face with rubber buckshot, have there been instances where rubber buck and beanbag rounds and so forth have permanently disfigured people? Yeah. I know a corrections officer who has a really cool story about trying to get a violent inmate out of a cell, and he was like third in the stack with the shotgun with beanbag rounds, and they expected to open the cell door and the guy to be back in the corner ready to fight. They pulled open the cell door. He come flying out, pushed over the first two guys, and was right in, you know who it is. It's the guy. It's Kevin.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And
we're not going to say his last name, but fired the beanbag round essentially at point-blank range. And it entered either the left or the right side of his cheek, and it exited the other side, and it took a bunch of teeth and stuff with it. Okay? Now, are beanbag rounds designed to be less than lethal? Well, yeah, sure. Is that...
Did you say yeah, sure, or yes, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. Shut up. So anyway, my point is this. If someone is breaking into your house, if someone is doing something that justifies deadly force, you don't get extra brownie points for doing less. You want less than lethal? Then go for less than lethal. Go for pepper spray, tasers, and so forth. We got a whole class that we do about that. But loading up rubber buckshot, rubber slugs, beanbag rounds, all that nonsense in your guns, it doesn't make you look like a good guy. It doesn't get you extra points. And the fact of the matter is, if you're not justified in pointing a gun at someone, it doesn't matter whether it's empty, full, has birdshot, buckshot, slugs, rubber buck, what have you. You can be charged if you're not justified. So it's not a shotgun doesn't become a giant can of mace because you put rubber buckshot in it. It's still a gun. It's still lethal force. So stay away. If you do nothing else, if you learn nothing else from this, folks, stay away from rubber buckshot and people who tell you that you should use rubber bullets. All right, now Jared's going to go ahead and cue up our interview with Dr. Dan. We're going to drop that in there, and then we're going to come back, and we got a vagination report for you before we let you go. All right, with us in the Student of the Gun radio studios, and actually, check this out, hippies. He's sitting in my chair in my booth talking into my microphone, and that's how well we treat our guests, is Dr. Dan Olesnicki. And did I say it right?
Yes, you did. And I am sitting in the glass case of emotion.
He is. Folks, he's in the glass case of emotion. You can check that one off your bucket list.
Absolutely. That is a check mark right there.
We're having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have, and I'll send the big guy a nickel for stealing that from him. But we're at the studios today, and we've spent a couple of days with Dr. Dan talking about SWAT fuel, talking about tourniquets, talking about stuff in wounds, and amongst other things. And what we want to talk about today is the wheres and wherefores of SWAT fuel. Now, you guys, when you get a little bit older, and we've talked about this before, but we're going to talk about it again because you are my captive audience. Everybody needs a little boost sometimes, and some people need more than a little boost. If you're an occupational athlete, and you're like, dude, I'm not an occupational athlete. Well, are you a policeman, fireman, EMT, soldier, sailor, Marine, airman? If you like get out of your chair once in a while and have to go to the Coke machine, sometimes you got to walk all the way across the hallway to get a Coke when you're an airman. It can be stressful sometimes. It can stress them out. Hunters, how many of you guys, you got to get up at like 0:30 in the morning and, go out, get there. So pretty much if you're an adult human and you're not a slug and you're not somebody that just lives off everybody else's money, I'm talking about, you may need SWAT fuel. And Dr. Dan is going to tell us a little bit about what went into the development of SWAT fuel and why it is what it is.
Absolutely. Well, SWAT fuel, of course, came out of the genesis of having a background in molecular genetics, law enforcement, and being a doctor. And I was basically putting the three of those interests that I have together. It was also coupled with the fact that I'm trying to work out and stay in shape and fight the aging process and still be able to work as an operator. So I created SWAT fuel. And a lot of that was at the egging on of people I worked with, people that I did or that I was working with as far as lecturing across the country. Used to do a lot of lecturing across the country for Trexpo and different law enforcement events. And, of course, I was tasked with talking about law enforcement nutrition, sports nutrition. And because I had a background in molecular genetics and biochemistry, we obviously got into the technical aspects of the sports nutrition industry. People encouraged me actually to create my own line of supplements because the wish list I was coming up with really didn't exist out there. There's a lot of garbage. They
said to you, you're like, okay, smart guy, you're telling us that if we want a supplement, it should have all these things in it. Why don't you just make one for us?
And after about 5 years, I did listen to them, and I created SWAT fuel. So SWAT fuel is special weapons and tactics for the body, because it really is. We took what was out there and looked at what worked and just made a really clean, simple line of supplements that works. And we didn't overprice them. There's no middlemen in there.
And so you got your 40 caliber multivitamins, and that was the start. That's something that anybody can take, man or woman. You don't have to be a dude. You can be a chick, right?
Absolutely. And so basically, actually, the 40 caliber was the third product that came out, but it really was the first one I formulated. And it took a little while to get just right, but the first one that came out was the 9mm fat burn formula. And I don't know any of us who really doesn't try and keep in good shape. That's really the goal. So the first one we launched was the fat burner. So when you train, you actually get more out of your training. We combined a pre-workout, an energy, and a fat burn all in one, and made it so it doesn't overstimulate you and you don't get jitters or crash. And again, it was specifically formulated as a pill rather than a drink because of how it gets absorbed in the body. And we talked about this earlier. The 10-cent word on that one is pharmacokinetics. So what is pharmacokinetics? Well, it's the study. You
put that in your pocket and take it with you.
Exactly.
Pharmacokinetics.
You could. You can actually throw that one down at the bar too.
Yeah.
So, but pharmacokinetics is the study of how medicine or chemicals work over time. Pharmacology is the study of chemicals in medicine, but pharmacokinetics is how it works over time. So we didn't just look at the pharmacology like a lot of these garage chemists do. We look at pharmacokinetics. And you don't want to take something that gets absorbed too quick, gives you the jitters, and then leaves you right away. And a lot of the energy shots that are out there are inferior because they get absorbed real quick, and then before you know it, you're just crashing and you want to take a nap.
Right.
So we wanted to overcome that. Not to mention, we wanted something in a package where you can take one bottle of SWAT fuel, it's 30 doses, and it weighs about as much as one energy shot. Now, imagine how much your ruck would weigh.
30 energy shots, yeah, it would be a lot.
Yeah, your ruck would be pretty heavy if you put 30 energy shots into it, and we're walking around with that. So you take one bottle, it weighs almost nothing, and you get no jitters and no crash.
Truth be told, I've done the long drives, the 12-hour drives, 16-hour drives, and whatever, and I've tried the I tried to, I guess, placebo myself into thinking that the little mini energy drink things would help me. Now, maybe I'm just a weird dude, but I never really felt like it was giving me that much, like I was really getting that much out of it. I just kind of, and I thought, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I should feel it, and I'm not feeling it. But, and, hey, if that's your thing, if that's your bag, dude, then rock on and just do it. But I've tried lots of stuff. We talked about this off air a little bit, but after I became 40 years old and got a little older, and even before, I decided to get an additional second career at age 40 when I went to work full time back in the military, but not as an actual enlisted person, but as a military contractor. So I had to do everything that the 18 and 19-year-old privates and PFCs were doing, only I had to do it at age 42, 43, what have you.
And that's fun.
So, but check this out, hippies. If I get out in the field and I'm 43 years old and you're dragging behind me on a hump, you got a problem. You better catch up. And that's what, some of the SWAT fuel is all about.
Yeah, it definitely gives you that edge. And that's why we came up with the 9mm plus P, which gives you a little extra power in there. And we fueled that a little bit differently. It's very similar, but it's a difference between training and game day. The regular 9mm is really for training if you want to cut weight, but when it comes to game time or show time, you want to use the 9mm plus P. And that guy has the power of bitter orange in it. And what the bitter orange does is it is a cousin to ephedra, but it's much milder. It's a lot smoother. Ephedra is now, you'll hear that you can't use that in team sports and what have you out there. Mm-hmm. It's too strong. But it is too strong. It gives you focus problems, and it can give you the jitters. So rather than being maximally overstimulated, you want to have enough stimulation that it gives you a performance edge, but doesn't sacrifice your ability to think or your muscle coordination. So the 9mm plus P is an optimal blend to give you that edge, but still actually even give you a higher edge of mental clarity while you're doing this. So it's really designed for operators or anyone who needs to think on their feet.
So you don't become, and Jared talked about this on the radio, you're not like this spastic squirrel that can't focus on anything. You're just like, Rrr. You can actually think. It's kind of like driving oxygenated blood to your brain.
Yeah, and also weapons manipulations. Try doing that on taking some sort of heavy-duty pre-workout formula. You can't use your hands the right way. And weapons manipulation is fine motor skill. Mm-hmm. You then take that with SWAT fuel, and you'll see that you actually can do the fine motor skills.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we as students of the gun, we've used it during range time, during training, during practice. We've used it while we were hunting. And, Jared doesn't have a microphone right now because he's actually working the board at being quiet. But if he were to have a microphone, he would tell you that, yeah, we actually killed stuff on SWAT fuel. We're able to hold the sight still enough to put bullets into flesh and make it die with SWAT fuel. So it's not like, guys get out there and they take the, whether it's Mountain Dews or whatever, and you punch that front sight out, and that thing's shaking all over like it's having a tremor. Well, yeah, that's because your hands are shaking, Sparky.
And the other thing with the pill form is you don't have to urinate.
You don't got to pee all the time.
Yep. Constant having to urinate is not good if you're doing a tactical operation. I mean, if you're in the stack, you can't just say, time out, I got to pee.
I got to pee. You can. What? Well, or if you're in a hunting blind and you want to, do your business every 30 minutes there. And I know that I'm crapping on some guys on their thing. They're like, dude, I take a 24-ounce thermos of coffee to the blind with me every time I go out. And, rock on. If that's your thing, go crazy.
Well, of course, to plug SWAT fuel, I have to add one thing. And I am a hunter, too. The hunting industry has so much money spent on scent elimination or scent masking things. And these are all great companies and great concepts. You have Scent Blocker, you have Under Armour, you have all these different companies that use carbon or what have you to block your scent. And then you put these chemicals in your body, whether it's soda, energy shots, or coffee, and you urinate. Well, what do you think your urine smells like to an animal? It is a beacon of danger.
Bright red stop sign.
Absolutely. And if they're downwind from you, forget it. They're never going to come near you. Now, there's other things like ozone blockers that are out there, but do you think that, just a pot of coffee coming out of your bladder is going to overwhelm even the ozone producers? Of course it is. So don't make yourself urinate every 20 minutes. You want to have scent elimination. Well, don't produce the scent. Don't throw a scent beacon out there, and stop putting crap in your body. Fuel yourself with something that's not going to cause an enormous amount of urine being made, and drink water.
Or and the ups and downs too, the jitters and the crashes and what have you. And how many of you guys know that? How many of you experienced it? You're like, oh, I felt like I was like my heart was going to explode, and then an hour later I wanted a nap.
Or an hour later, I'm hanging from my tree stand by my safety strap because I fell asleep and fell out of the tree stand. I've seen that a few times.
You don't want to do that if you can avoid it. Well, Dan, thank you very much. We're going to put the wraps right now on this particular segment of Student of the Gun Radio. Everybody applaud and thank Dan for coming in. Dan,
and thanks for having me here.
We appreciate it, and we will be back with your continued programming in just one moment.
So it's kind of a funny story about our vagination report. You guys know that our update theme is Tiny Tim, and one of our fans, well, I'm sure more than one, but one in particular doesn't really like the update theme, and he decided to send me a package, and I got the care package today, and there was an explicit sticker that I can't say what it is on the public hour. I'll probably talk about it in the bonus hour. And then there was also a nice flag in there, and he said that he saw on UFC that the fighters walk down with flags around them. So he said, I can walk out to Tiny Tim with this flag around me, which I will not do, but it's a very colorful flag. But anyway, so Kurt, here's your song.
With me.
And I'll let Dad pick up for the vagination report now.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that, leading us in, Tiny Tim. And the title of the story, it comes from NovemberPapaRomeo.org, or it should be nannystate.org. And the title says, eyeing that BB gun for Christmas? Don't go there, doctors say. What? And this story was put out on November 28th November 28th, which was what? Black Friday. Why's it got to be black? Oh, here we go. If you've seen the classic movie A Christmas Story, you know that Ralphie really, really wanted a BB gun. And you know that his mother, his teacher, even the department store Santa all said, you'll shoot your eye out. They're right, the nation's ophthalmologists say. What? And though BB guns still top the eye doctor's list of way too dangerous toys, well, first of all right, let's not go there. Each year there are new contenders for that dubious prize. All right, so here we go. We got an article written by, by Nancy Shute. Nancy Shute. And Nancy says that not only are BB guns dangerous, but there are other items that are even more dangerous, like the Airstorm FireTech bow, which makes it possible to shoot glowing brands across a darkened room. Glowing brands. Really? Okay. Am I alone in thinking this sounds like tons of fun? At short range, it packs a punch, says Dr. Jane Edmond, a pediatric ophthalmologist at Texas Children's Hospital and a spokeswoman for the American Academy of Ophthalmology. It can cause bleeding, cataracts, and retinal detachment. So can being a kid. That doesn't sound good. The foam on the Airstorm arrows isn't enough to prevent injury, says Edmund says. So that's why the Airstorm bow ended up in the 10 worst toys list for Watch, a non-profit organization promoting toy safety.
That's funny because we just had a doctor in here that promotes kids shooting.
You mean Dr. Dan takes his kids shooting?
Yeah.
Oh, he probably doesn't let them have those bows, though.
Yeah, no bows, no foam-covered darts.
Oh, my Lord. And in here it says, they talk about jarts. And for those of you kids, you don't.
I don't even know what jarts are.
See, Jared doesn't even know what jarts are because it says jarts were banned in 1988 after thousands of children were seriously injured by the projectiles. Thousands! I kind of don't believe. I remember growing up, and my uncles, my grandfather and my dad and my uncles would, on sunny springtime and summertime afternoons, Sundays, they'd go out and they'd play jarts. And we as kids, back in the 70s when I was a kid, the jarts, and it's lawn darts, and look it up, duck it, kids. We as kids weren't allowed to play with them. It was for the adults. It's basically, it was the equivalent of horseshoes. It was a modern version of horseshoes. That's what it was. You're like, horseshoes? You mean those things they put on horses back in the 18th century? Yeah. Anyway, long story short, we just thought you would appreciate that the nanny state, and this chick, she goes so far as to say, where is it? It's about how they no longer play with Nerf darts. Okay, truth be told, this is her confessional moment. My family abandoned our all-out Nerf gun battles after a suction cup dart nailed my husband right in the eye. Luckily, he had glasses on. They stopped the dart. Otherwise, he might have been on the way to the ER.
To get the dart pulled out of his vag.
All right. Is everyone here familiar with Nerf guns and Nerf darts? Jared, how fast does a Nerf dart travel?
Not that fast.
About as fast as you could throw it with your hand?
Yeah, when I was in the same house as Dallin, we had two they were automatic Nerf guns.
Automatic.
We had
Nerf
two
guns.
of them, and they had high capacity clips too.
Oh, did they? Ooh,
yeah, they held a
scary.
lot. That we the kids love this, but Dallin and I would take the Nerf dart guns, and we would run in the kids' playroom and we would just spray them with darts. Nobody got injured ever.
You didn't have to take a trip to the ER?
No.
Oh, sweet Buddha on a rubber raft. So yeah,
we had them wear the Michelin suits and goggles.
Yeah, ballistic safety helmets and so forth. Ugh, folks, so vag-tastic. We don't even know what to say. All right, that brings us right up to the end of part 2. Now, what do we got coming up in the bonus hour, Jared?
A lot of things. Let me get back to
Let me see. In the bonus hour, we've got you guys remember we talked about the Mall of America and the guy getting robbed, and we talked about whether or not you can have guns in the Mall of America and security, and the guy and how there were gangs of hoodlums robbing people inside the Mall of America. We got an update on that. We've got a Californication story for you guys. You're not going to believe what the L.A. City Council wants to do about ammo. Remember we said when they figure that if they can't get the guns, what's the next thing? They want to get the ammo. We've got a good article. It's kind of a follow-up from part 1 about why we don't shoot to wound, and it's very succinct. And then we've got another an article talking about you die, you own guns.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Are the police going to come and take those guns? I don't know. Maybe. Depends on where you live. That's all coming up in the bonus hour of Student of the Gun Radio. And, Jared, tell them real quick how they can get the bonus hour.
If you go to studentofthegun.com, it's actually the grad program now. There's on the right sidebar, there's a little picture of the normal radio logo, and it has a +1 on it, and that's the bonus hour. You sign up for the grad program, you get the bonus hour. We've got a new tactical tutor. If you sign up this week, if you can hear my voice, sign up now, and you'll get the December issue of the Tactical Tutor. And if you signed up before and you got the November issue, and you want to find it again, if you sign up for anything through Gumroad, which is the grad program, you can go to your library, which you you should get a little link in your email that you can click and go to the library, and you can look at all your previous episodes or anything that you've previously gotten up to this point. So do that.
We're educating you guys. We're teaching you, and we're bringing new ways, 2014 ways to deliver information, education, and enlightenment directly to your tablet and so forth. So make sure you check out the TV show on Roku, Apple TV, Chromecast, Dish Network Channel 266, Monday nights at 9 Eastern.
Big news coming up on the Roku app as well.
Yeah, big news. We're going to be going 100% on demand very soon. But remember, you're a beginner once. You should indeed be a student for life.